taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. Today we are going to take a look at some replays, but first, before we get into that, just want to talk briefly about the new patch that has been landed as of today. Fantastic. Now, most notably in this patch are the team battles. We're taking a look at them here. Oh, I can't wait to get into these team battles. I'm not 100% sure what I can say with regards to Club Wargaming without breaching the NDA, but what I'm pretty sure I can say without breaching NDA is keep an eye on, over the next few days, we'll say, keep an eye on some updates about some team battles coming up. Yeah, just keep an eye out for it. Anyway, team battles. So this is going to be awesome, I believe. They do go into some big detail here, or well, further detail we should say, about team battles as we can see it scrolling down. I'm not going to read all this to you. I assume that you can all read, right? I just wanted to highlight the fact that you can actually be on 3 different teams, right? You do need to play 10 battles on your first team, and then you are able to create the second and third team at a cost of 300 blooms for each subsequent team. The name of each team is unique, so that is cool because we can come up with a nice cool team name here, so that'll be awesome. Yeah, so we're going to retain our name here, so you know, some good changes coming to ships here with regards to these team battles. That is going to be awesome. Now if we scroll down a little more, we can see that there are new maps coming, Tears of the Desert, so I'm excited to play on this map. I think, you know, visually it's going to look cool, especially considering, I mean, I do play with my graphics on high for ships, but you know, with the graphics on high, I just find it looks so awesome, right? Really well polished, so I'm really excited to see this new map, to see what it looks like. They made some changes to the existing maps. We can see it here, you know, domination to standard battle. In all maps where domination featured only 2 key areas. So they list the maps here that have been changed, so that is awesome. A few other changes here on Hotspot and New Dawn. There are some changes coming to ranked battles, yes. So these changes are live now, and what I am actually second most excited for in the team battles are the new achievements. I love new achievements, right? Why not have some new achievements in the game? It's always cool. So you can see these achievements here, and as discussed in the video, we can decorate our player profile with these achievements. So that is not too shabby at all, right? Pretty fantastic. We're gonna get, you know, credits for these. Yeah, I'm really excited to start seeing these achievements being earned. Minor achievements, right? Some changes to those. We do have some economy changes as well, which is cool because we are going to get, as you can see, these ships here now get increased XP earnings. We do have some reduced XP earnings, increased credit earnings. Yes, I'm very happy to see this, especially considering I'm now, you know, as you know, saving up for the old Shimakaze. We have some reduced XP research requirements. That is always cool, mostly at the lower levels, so you know, you can get your work your way up the ship trees faster. We do have a new account level, so account level 12 has been created, and this obviously unlocks team battles. Game balance changes here, so there have been some game balance changes, which is cool to see as well. Some ship changes as well. So like I say, you guys can read through this yourselves if you haven't already, but I just wanted to bring light to it, of course, because this patch has dropped today, and it's going to be really cool, I think anyway. Obviously I'm not a carrier captain, so I don't have anything to say about that. But for everyone else, this should be a pretty good patch. Anyway, that being said, we'll move on into our replay here for the day. Alright, so you can see our replay here for the day. Now, this replay is actually going to be a new series that I'm going to start. We're going to call it Learning from Our Mistakes. I know that I put up a video before, Learning from Our Mistakes, right? But I'm actually going to take it further, and we're going to do a series on it. What the series is going to focus on is defeats. Why they were defeats, right? Just taking a closer look at why it did actually turn out to be a defeat. This idea, I've had this idea for a little while, but it was actually some comments in yesterday's video that made me think, well, yeah, there is actually value to showing some of these defeats, right? So that's what we're going to do with this series. I guess I could try and get a learning from our mistakes video up every once a week, much like our Ever Wonder series. That video will be coming out either Thursday or Friday, so in the next 2 days. This could be, a good little addition to that series as well. Definitely some value in that. So for our first video of this series, of the Learning from Our Mistakes series, we are taking a look at a battle on Land of Fire. Yes, because on Land of Fire, I play ships often enough, but I get Land of Fire pretty often. And this is a pretty easy map to get yourself out of position and leave your base wide open. In this instance, I'm grouped up with two clanmates. We've got Doc, who is in his North Carolina, and then we have Rebel, who is in his Fubuki. We can see Rebel here off the starboard side. Doc is behind me on the port side, on the other side of an island. He's getting himself into position, right? So that is basically, right now, as we see it, not necessarily the first mistake on this map, but leaving a lot to chance on this map. Let me explain. You can see the way that the team has been spread out, right? The majority of our ships are actually going to go to the west. Not really a big surprise here, because this is generally how this map plays out, especially when there aren't 3 separate cap zones. If we take a look over in the east, we see some of my ally ships over there in the east, but they definitely don't have the same amount of support as we do over here in the west. This is basically the first mistake, right? Now, I'm not going to say that we should have split up evenly, east and west and all that, but no, it's at this point that you should take a look at the minimap, see this situation, and keep it in mind. You don't necessarily need to react to this situation just yet, but you need to keep it in mind. You need to be aware and say, hey, look, the east side is fairly weak compared to our west side. Gonna need to keep an eye on it, right? So continue with your normal strategy at this point in time, like, I'm continuing with my normal strategy at this time. I mean, you guys can do what you think is proper at the time, right? So I'm continuing with this strategy over here. We're going to continue supporting battleships and destroyers and other friendly cruisers I have over here in the west. But, like I said, it should be at this time that you keep in mind the east side. Now, I took a huge hit there. From a battleship. And Rebel and Doc at this time were like, oh my god, Thotgor, what in the fuck? Right? Yeah, whatever. I'm still alive. Just because I don't have very much health left doesn't mean that I can't still do damage. So now, now at this point in time, I'm more concerned with the level of health that I have versus keeping an eye on that east side, right? Keeping an eye on the east side. So this, again, learning from our mistakes. It's only after going through, watching the replay a few times that I'm able to see the pattern here of what went wrong, and it allows us to talk about, what could have went differently. So over here on the west, we are coming across some pretty stiff enemy opposition, but we're doing a fairly decent job against them. And yeah, things are going pretty easy, or pretty good over here in the west. But take a look at the east, right? The east side isn't doing that great. The ally ships that we do have over there have been, spread apart, right? We've got a lone cruiser. There's a destroyer. I think there's a battleship over there as well. So they're not doing too great because they're not really grouped up. This is not their fault, by the way. Not saying that it's their fault, but it would be at this point in time, if you're paying attention to your mini-map, that you would say, I've got a lot of support. We've got a lot of ships over here in the west. The east could really use some defense, right? And this is the whole learning from our mistakes. The east could use a bit of defense over there, at least to hold off the enemies. Give our team a chance over here on the west to push through these enemies and into their base. Now, you can relate this to Two Brothers, right? Two Brothers, because it's probably the easiest example that we can visualize, because we've all played Two Brothers. We're all very familiar with Two Brothers. So on Two Brothers, what generally happens, same thing that happens here, is most of your ships usually will go to the west, they'll fight it out, which means on the east, those ships have to play the defense, right? Have to do it, and then the idea there is that the east is going to stall the enemies long enough so that the west can push through, cap the enemy base. Doesn't always work, obviously, but that's the general plan. On Two Brothers, it's a lot easier to stay focused on these goals because there's that huge landmass in the middle, right? You've got the one single channel running down the middle. Generally, people don't like to go down the channel right away, so it's easy enough to split off and get your two groups of ships, and you know exactly what those two groups are going to do. Land of Fire, little different. There is no massive landmass in the middle, right, denying us basically maneuverability in the middle of the map. No, that doesn't exist on this Land of Fire map. Instead, we have a fairly open middle with small islands that provide an excellent opportunity for cover. I, and maybe another member of my team over here on the west, should actually be switching over, going to the east. Maybe not necessarily getting ourselves all the way over to the east, but at least positioning ourselves in the middle of the map behind some cover so that we can continue to harass the enemy as they're pushing through the middle and down into our base. Because if we take a look right now at our overall situation, right, where the teams are even in terms of ships gone, we've lost a destroyer and a cruiser, so that's fine. But on the east, we don't have many ships remaining. The allied ships we did have over there are either dead, dying, or just trying to get themselves out of this situation. The ships we have over on the west, including myself, are tunnel visioned on the enemy ships on the west, trying to push ourselves through and get to the enemy base, right? Not necessarily concerned with not necessarily concerned with the enemy push towards our base. All we can see is the enemy base. So we really need to keep situational awareness. I mean, this is sort of what happens when we lose situational awareness, and play the map based on how we think we should play, or to put it better, to play the map rigidly, right? Not being flexible. The first video I've ever uploaded to YouTube was called Cruiser Flexibility, and it is so important to keep this flexibility in mind, and we are all human, and we were all going to forget this, and that's sort of the reason why we're going to do the series, learning from our mistakes, right? At least this is good. I know it's going to help me because I'm actually going to be sitting down doing the videos, but I'm hoping too that's going to help you guys. You guys are going to be thinking, looking at the map and saying, yeah, I should probably, learn from the mistake that I've done so far and go ahead and correct it, right? Even at this point in this game, I am kind of harassing the enemies that are moving down into the middle. I managed to kill one of them as well, so that's pretty good. But you can see that I'm not being aggressive, right? I know I don't have the hit points to be that aggressive, but I'm still focused on the west side here. I've been taking shots off the enemies in the middle as I can, but now I'm back to the west and I'm shooting off shots at the enemies over here on the west. I should really be turning around, using the cover that's available to me to get myself into our base so I can support the 2 or possibly 3 remaining allied ships I have to defend our base. Because if you notice, the west hasn't gone anywhere, right? We haven't done anything over here other than, we did kill ships, yes, that's true, but we never really pushed up. We're still over here, and there's basically this halfway up the map, the same place that we've been the entire time, trying to pick off enemies, right? If you're getting yourself into this sort of situation, and you can see that the enemies are putting pressure on your base, and there's not a whole lot of ally ships down there to do something about it, much like this situation, it's really important to have the situational awareness to realize, I gotta move. I'm out of position right now. We all do it. I'm doing it right now. I'm getting caught up in the moment. I'm trying. All I can see is the enemy base and the enemy ships in between me and that base. I want to kill the enemies. I want to get some kills. And then I want to cap the base. That's all I can see. Even though clear as day on my mini-map, the situation is totally different. My allied destroyer down there, I died, but whatever. My allied destroyer down at our base did actually manage to kill an enemy, right? And well, kill an enemy that was really close to our base. So this kind of works to further and to justify the maneuvers that we've been doing over here, right? We're taking a look at Rebel now because I'm dead, but you know, it kind of justifies the moves over here, right? Continue pushing forward, continue pushing, putting pressure on the enemies over here on the east. So continue putting pressure over here on the enemies on the west, but it doesn't actually do anything. Doesn't actually attribute to any of the overall objectives here. So in this situation, now I can be wrong, right? We're all human, we can all be wrong, but as I see this situation unfold right now after watching the replay a few times, I would have suggested that the Rebel in his Fubuki stays on the west, right? Because the Fubuki, as long as he remains unseen, can hold off a great number of enemy ships, and it would be at this time that the cruiser and the battleship who are on behind Rebel should be making their way towards our base. Our base is actually being captured right now. It is being captured. We do have some an allied ship down there to help deal with it, but it's not really, you know, that allied ship down there can't really do a whole lot because he's basically, well, the player is basically fighting on two fronts, right? The player is trying to get shots into the enemy who's capping our base to reset the base, but at the same time maneuvering against the enemies who are pushing down the west to try and preserve his life, right? That's what he's doing. Now, it's at this point you can see Rebel. We can also take a nice little look at the Super Tester flag. That's the flag we're looking at now. Rebel is a Super Tester. Anyway, so it's at this point that Rebel, you know, is abandoning the west, moving into our base. We can see that our ally ships that were behind Rebel are doing the exact same thing, but it's too late at this point. The enemies are in a great position to actually take our base, and they're able to defend it very, very well, because you don't necessarily need to have all of your ships in the enemy base capping it, right? And we can see that with what the enemies are doing right now. The enemies have the ships in the middle, kind of harassing our ships. Now, sure, they're not shooting at Rebel because he's a destroyer and they can't see him, but they are shooting at the cruiser. And it's, yeah, well, we just lost the cruiser on the minimap there. They are shooting at the allied ships that are behind Rebel, right? Because they can see them. So the enemy ships in the middle are in an excellent position to harass our ships as they try to frantically get their way back to the base to prevent the cap. Yeah. Learning from our mistakes, right? I know that I put up a specific video on situational awareness. We've talked about strategy and watching our mini maps and whatnot. But you know, coming back to the series, learning from our mistakes, there's a whole lot of value in seeing these defeats, seeing how they unfold and what we can do differently. If I had to do it all over again, like I discussed earlier in the video, I still would have went over to the west, not only to support my team and my division mates, but I wouldn't have been so committed to the west. I should have turned back and went to our base to help with the defense. Because as soon as our allies start dropping over there in the east, that is the time that we need to start sending ships back. Obviously, like we said, you know, you do not need to send all of your ships back. In this specific situation, it was a good call on Rebel's behalf to go back to our base and do whatever he can to prevent the capture. Reason for it is we don't have that many ships remaining. We only have 2 right now, in fact. And the 2 cruisers who were remaining, you know, as they work their way back to the base, like we said, are going to be harassed by the enemy and potentially killed like the other cruiser was. In the ideal situation, the team would have recognized the fact that, hey, our base isn't defended so well. The allies we had in the east are duking it out with the enemies, and they are distracted and can't really do anything. It would have been at that situation and at that point that we should have sent ships back. Like myself and my Hipper, you know, I should have went back to the base and started defending it. Rebel gets himself a nice kill there with some torpedoes, so that is fantastic. All for naught, though, right? But if I would have went back and supported, I mean, obviously there's no guarantee that even if I would have went back and supported my allies defending the base that we would have won, right? The defense would have held. There's no guarantee in that. but at the very least it would have been the proper call to make. Instead, had the blinders on, all I can see is the enemy base, the enemy ships between me and the enemy base. All I'm focused on is killing those enemy ships, getting to the enemy base, right? There is so much to be said about situational awareness that we're going to get this new series on the roll, learning from our mistakes, right? First video here. So what you can take from this video is some pretty basic messages, but some fairly key and really important messages, right? Recognizing the situation. As the situation unfolds and as the situation changes, you are adapting to this situation. It's not every battle that you can just go with one main strategy and go with it and get the victory. It does work. It does work. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but it doesn't happen every battle. It's not going to be every battle. You are still going to have defeats, but it's from the defeats that we can learn some things and maybe reduce the number of defeats, right? If my team would have, myself included, recognized the situation, turned back, at least sent a few more ships back to defend, we might have been able to hold off the enemy advance long enough for our ships to continue the push to the enemy base. Rebel would have been able to stay on the west, to push those enemies back with his torpedoes, and clear the way for our battleships or remaining cruisers to start capping the enemy base. But it just didn't happen that way, right? We had blinders on. So we can take a look at overall results. Obviously we did lose, but it wasn't too bad of a loss. It was just complete oversight on the actual situational awareness, how the battle unfolded. Anyway, that is today's video. First video of our new series, learning from our mistakes. Hopefully you guys did take something from this, and find some value in it. Obviously, where this is a new series, let me know in the video comment section below what you think, right? If you do want to continue to see sort of defeats and us talking about these defeats and how maybe we could have turned it around, let me know, so that there's actual value to this series and that you guys actually do want to watch it. Obviously, if you have any other comments, leave them in the video comment section below. Pootahead still has his contest running in the comment section, right? His little riddle there, if you can get the answer to it, you will win yourself a prize. Pootahead will credit you those prizes, so don't think that it's just some random guy who's not going to credit me the prize. No, I know Pootahead. He will credit you the prize. That riddle contest is running till the 19th of February, so you have yourself 2 more days to get the answer to it. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.